Why is Brooking Guy so dissatisfied with his life? On paper, Brooking Guy should not be this miserable. He has multiple well-paying jobs, he has a loving wife, he has a daughter, he has friends. He's one of the most useful and important adults in the entire SML universe. He is a cop, a doctor, a firefighter, and somehow every random professional the story needs him to be. But even with all of that, Brooking Guy constantly acts like he hates his life. He makes sarcastic comments about being miserable. He complains about his marriage, his jobs, his family, his past, and almost everyone around him. And after a while, it stops feeling like just a random joke, because Brooking Guy is not depressed because he has nothing. He might be depressed because everything he has comes with damage. A big part of that starts with his childhood. Brooking Guy's relationship with his mother, Barbara, is one of the most important parts of his character. Barbara does not just annoy him, she insults him, mistreats him, and treats him like a disappointment. And based on what we know about his childhood, Brooking Guy did not grow up feeling safe, respected, or emotionally supported. That might explain why he is so sarcastic as an adult. Brooking Guy almost never handles pain directly. He turns everything into a joke, an insult, or a story. Instead of saying he is hurt, he complains. Instead of being vulnerable, he gets better. And instead of processing his life like a normal person, he talks like someone who learned a long time ago that nobody was going to take his feelings seriously. His father also adds to that broken family dynamic, as his parents' marriage eventually fell apart after his father had an affair. So even the more normal side of Brooking Guy's family still connects back to disappointment, instability, and divorce. Then there are his brothers. Jonathan constantly crosses boundaries, especially with Karen, and Does Bad Things Guy is literally a darker version of Brooking Guy, someone who looks like him, wears authority like him, but uses it for evil. His family is not a support system. Most of the time, it is another source of stress, embarrassment, or trauma. And that might be why Brooking Guy often feels like a kid trapped in an adult body. He has adult jobs, adult responsibilities, a wife, and a daughter, but emotionally, he still acts like someone who never fully escaped his childhood. Under all the uniforms, he is still the kid who was mocked by his mother, let down by his family, and forced to turn humiliation into comedy. That also connects to his strange obsessions. Brooking Guy can become obsessed with random things like the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, old high school memories, sandwiches, Legos, petty grudges, the World Cup, or minor inconveniences. But those obsessions might not be completely random. They might be the few things in his life that feel simple. A basketball team wins or loses, a sandwich is good or bad, a high school memory is already over so he can replay it without changing anything. Real life is harder, his marriage is complicated, his family is a mess, his jobs are stressful, his responsibilities never end, so Brooking Guy clings to small things because the big things are too exhausting to fix. That is also why he talks about the past so much. Brooking Guy often brings up old memories from high school or from when he was younger, and it can feel like more than just him rambling. It almost feels like a midlife crisis, like part of him believes his life went wrong somewhere, and he keeps mentally going back to a time before everything became bills, marriage problems, job stress, guilt, and routine. He does not just miss the past. He might miss the version of himself who still had a chance to become something else. And then there are his jobs. The joke is that Brooking Guy has every job, but realistically, that would destroy someone. He's always on call. If Marvin needs a doctor, he shows up. If there is a crime, he shows up. If there is a fire, he shows up. If someone needs a lawyer, a delivery man, a repairman, a teacher, or some random expert, somehow Brooking Guy is involved. That is not success. That is burnout. Brooking Guy has so many roles, but he barely has a stable identity. He's always working, always reacting, always being pulled into someone else's disaster, and even if those jobs pay well, money does not automatically give someone peace. Brooking Guy's guilt shows the darker side of that. In that episode, he stays up too late, oversleeps while he's supposed to be on call as a firefighter, and people die in a fire. What makes that episode important is that it shows Brooking Guy is not just annoyed by responsibility. Sometimes he knows his responsibility has consequences and he actually feels guilty for it. So his depression is not just boredom, it's also guilt. His marriage to Karen adds another layer. I already talked about their relationship more deeply in another video, but the short version is that Brooking Guy says he hates Karen, but that is not entirely true. Karen annoys him, stresses him out, and becomes part of the routine he resents. But she also stays and genuinely loves him. She is one of the only consistent people in his life. When Jonathan flirts with her, Brooking Guy gets jealous. When he spirals, Karen is often the one still there. So maybe he does not stay with Karen because he is happy. Maybe he stays because broken familiarity still feels safer than being alone. And that might be the key to Brooking Guy's entire life. He feels stuck. Stuck in his marriage, stuck in his jobs, stuck in his family trauma, stuck in old memories, stuck as the guy everyone calls when something goes wrong. But as weird as it sounds, the chaos around Marvin, Jeffy Jr. and the rest of SML might also be what pulls him out of that routine. He complains every time he shows up, but those insane situations give his life movement, and he often seems excited by the crazy situations that unfold in the episodes. They interrupt his boredom. They give him a new problem to solve, a new person to argue with, a new disaster to complain about. The chaos stresses him out, but it might also distract him from the life he hates. And that is what makes Brooking Guy interesting. He is not depressed because his life is empty. He has jobs, family, money, love, and people around him. He might be depressed because none of those things actually fix what is broken underneath. His childhood left him bitter. His family keeps hurting him. His work overwhelms him. His marriage gives him stability but not peace. His past feels easier to think about than his present. And his routine makes him feel trapped, even when the routine looks normal from the outside. So when Brooking Guy says he hates his life, maybe it is not just a joke. Maybe it is one of the few times he's actually being honest. Follow me if you want to watch more funny videos like this one.